Hello, everybody. I think it's working. My sound seems to be on. First time I do a live stream in a really long time, so please let me know if everything is working. I'm gonna try and keep an eye on the chat as much as I can, but it's off to the side for me. But we'll do our best. It looks like there's a bit of a delay because I'm watching my studio there to see, but we'll see. There we go. Okay, it seems to be working. So if you can't hear me or if there's anything weird, just let me know. But I think everything is going all right. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be doing this style stage here. And what I saw this posted on Andy Bell's newsletter, which I'd recommend you check out. He always posts some really cool stuff. And I checked it out and it made me really happy because it's based on the idea of the CSS Zen Garden here. And if you don't know, CSS Zen Garden holds a really dear place in my heart. I don't even know when they first created this. But it was an idea to show people what CSS could do, the beauty of CSS design. But it was a long time ago. And but you'd download the HTML file and then you'd make your own design based on their template. So here, let's just go look at a few fast ones here at the top. And you can see this is all the exact same markups, the same HTML for each one of these, and people would come up with different, oh, that's a nice one. People would come up with different styles for them and make them look unique, even though it was all the same HTML. The rules of this were you were not allowed to touch the HTML. And as CSS progressed, a lot of really cool things came of this, but I think it's slowed down a lot. I don't hear a lot about the Zen Garden, even though it's really, really cool. But here we have, by Stephanie Eccles, we have the style stage. So style stage is the same idea. It's inspired by, you can even see here, it's inspired by the Zen Garden, but with a bit more of a modern take on it. If you don't know Stephanie, she has this modern CSS solutions site which looks at modern, as it says, modern CSS solutions for old CSS problems. I'd really recommend checking this site out, actually. There's lots of really cool little tricks and stuff in here. So I definitely would recommend checking out her site. So what this is we have this page. We're going to have all the markup for it. I've already downloaded the HTML. And with this HTML, what I'm going to do is we're going to make our own styles for it. And I haven't planned anything. Usually whenever I do tutorials, I always plan stuff. There was a tweet, was it yesterday or 2 days ago from DevEd where somebody actually complained about things not... that they realized that he'd pre-planned a tutorial, and all the time that's what I do. But in this case, because we're not looking at like let's learn this one topic, I figured let's just have some fun with it. I want to have fun with you guys. So what we're going to do is just jump into here and have some fun with CSS. Sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on the chat as much as I can, but it's going by really fast. The last time I did this, it did not have so many people here. There's 200 people here now. That's really exciting. So thank you all for joining me. This should be a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do is I have it opened here already in VS Code, and you can see there is quite a lot. I've taken a quick look at it, but I haven't done very much. I haven't looked at it a lot. I did notice there's containers and there's a few things. So actually, I think maybe we'll start with that, and we'll just look at what we are starting with, and then we can start writing some CSS for it. Actually, your style title, I don't have a title, but I'll put my name for now, just so I don't forget that, Kevin. And we'll fill this out a little bit later. But style stage, a modern, so here we have a lot of containers. We have a body, we have a skip link at the start, so that's good. We have our header, which has the heading stuff. We have our container inside of there. And actually, just before I go further into this, to say that a lot of the time, people like creating things from scratch. My tutorials, usually I'm always doing things from scratch. In the real world, not a lot of the time you're going to be doing something from scratch, especially if you're a junior dev or something like that. Usually you're jumping into existing projects. So to be able to analyze what's actually exists already and then to make modifications, or if you're doing theme development, or if you have to work with WordPress, you don't get to touch the HTML unless you're really going and making your own theme. But a lot of the time you don't have that. You're sort of stuck with the theme that you have. So being able to look at a layout or look at HTML and figure out how you can style it the way you want is a really good skill to have. So looking in here, we have an SVG. That's probably the logo, I'm guessing. Is it the GitHub link? GitHub link? We'll check that out in a second. But we have that at the top. We have a navigation. That's good. And it's all with these guys. They're anchor links, so it should bring us to the right section. Then we have a main. You'll notice the name has a tab index on it, which is good for accessibility reasons. And it's -1. The -1 is just so you don't accidentally end up, like, it doesn't put it in the wrong order. Yeah. Another container. Then we have article about, and then in the article we have a section, and you'll see here I have a container, but inside this section I don't really have any classes to go by. So same thing here, I don't have any classes, so this is where we might have to get creative a little bit. Like here, this UL, I probably, is it the only one? That's my nav, so that one at least I can style differently. And again, there's no classes here, so we're gonna have to get a little bit creative with our selectors, but that's the fun of this stuff, is having to get fun. Article, container, h2, paragraph. Do we have another list? No way. I'm just looking through here quickly to start just seeing what we have. Okay. And actually down here in the profile, we have lots of classes that we can use because we do have a list, but this one has, these LIs have classes on them. So we might have to get something interesting. I don't know if we're going to finish styling this whole thing up, but we're going to get through as much as we can. I'll be going for a few hours for sure. Page footer. So nothing too complicated, but again, it's a lot of semantic, accessible HTML, and the CSS, we're going to try our best with that. And yeah, let's dive into this and see what we can do with it. So the very first thing we will need, I am in VS Code, and I will need a CSS file. I think it's style. Is it style or styles? Style.css. They just had it right there. And just to make sure everything's working, let's give my body a background of red. And let's turn on live server. Oh no, I opened it with the wrong file. That's okay. Let's go back to here, turn off live server. There's probably ways of getting around. Whoops, don't want that. Live server off. Go to here and then turn live server on. There we go. And I have a red background, so I know it's working. I have a really cool extension called Power Tools for Windows, which lets me quickly set things up like that. We don't want a red background, obviously, so we can get rid of that. Let's just see what's going on in the chat really quick. The tab index, Belu, it's about, like, if I'm on here and I hit tab, it's going to select the first link. If I hit tab again, it's going to select the next one. I hit tab again, it's selected my main now. And if I hit tab again, it's like it jumps through all my links. So you can navigate a page. It'd be buttons, anything. Oh, well, it's buttons and links, pretty much form elements. So if you add a tab index to something, you can actually make it a tab selectable item. So for people that navigate by keyboard, it can be handy having the main as something they can tab to, so it doesn't skip all the content when they hit tab at the end of a navigation, let's say. But it's a good idea to, usually if you're adding a tab index to something, to put it to -1, because if you give it a number, it's going to, like, say here I had like 1, 2, 3, and then I gave my main a tab index of 2, it's going to go 1, 2, and then it's going to jump to my main, and it's kind of awkward. So just the -1 keeps it within the flow of the document, pretty much. I also don't really know exactly what I want to do here, so I'm going to pull up a few, not that, I want my color space. We need some colors. I like this one a lot these days, but there also is coolers. That's what I call it. I don't, coolers.co, I'm guessing it's what the name of it is. If you do need color themes, so they're both pretty good. This one's really a random color generator. You hit spacebar. Oh, I saw a nice one, but I can't go back, I don't think. Oh, you can, because it, no, you can't. It generates URL each time, though. But you can also lock colors in. I think you can add and remove colors now, which is new. Whereas this one, you have to start off with a color. So if you know what color you want to start with, then you hit generate, and it gives you a whole bunch of different color themes and stuff. So it's a nice starting point. I just want one color that I think is going to look good, and I sort of like this turquoise, so I might go with that and maybe this dark one. But if you've seen my color video, I'm really big on trying to, you know, not to use too many colors, especially at the start. And we're also going to open up Google Fonts. I think I'll start with my Google Fonts, actually. What do I use for a CSS reset? I'm going to do a really small CSS. That extension that I used, Amar, for Windows, it's look up Windows Power Tools. Actually, I'll open it up. Power Toys, sorry, Power Toys. It was actually, someone commented on one of my videos about this. There's a whole bunch of really cool stuff it can do, but what I use is Fancy Zones. So with Fancy Zones, I use it just for YouTube pretty much, but if you're like a Power user, I'm sure you could use a lot of this other stuff. You can set up like windows, like arrangements, and then when I hold shift and I drag, it'll pop into one of those arrangements automatically. So really, really cool. You can edit, create as many zones as you want. But you can see they have lots of other stuff that you can do with that too. So that's Power Toys. It's just something you download. It's from Microsoft. It's really cool. I just want to get a nice sans serif font right now, which are all the ones at the top. I think I'm going to go with Montserrat. Just, it's a little bit of a big font. Like the characters are very wide on Montserrat, but it is a nice font. Or do I do Roboto? Or Source. I use Source. I use Oswald a lot. I like Oswald because it's really narrow. If anyone wants to... Oh, font pair is a good choice. Font pair. Let's see what we can do. No. So font pair is a cool site just because you get... actually, another one that I really like is Typespiration. I might have spelt that wrong, but hopefully it comes up. This is a really nice one too. This is by Rafael Tomal. And it's cool because it also suggests colors. So that's always handy that you get both. And they're a little bit more curated. I'm looking for one I want something simple. Yeah, it's always 2 fonts, or most of them I think. It's still 2 fonts. I want something... Let's try this one. I like PT Sa. So you see he also gives color theme suggestions and what he did, and I think you can even download the CSS and stuff. Or maybe he's changed the layout here a little bit, so it's a little bit different than it used to be. But maybe we'll do that. PT Sa's narrow and PT Sa's. And I'm going to sort of... PT Sa's. So I want you... Not download. I want just... Let's just do that. And the bold... let's just grab every... I don't want bold. Let's just grab everything for now. We're not going to go for the best performance at the moment, just because I don't know exactly what my styles are going to be. So we're just going to add everything in, hit embed, and I can copy you and bring that right here. And then we'll grab these and come over to here. And let's just do a bit of basic setup. I want my star before, star after. A lot of the things at the beginning of a style sheet I don't type every time because I have like sort of a default that I always use. But we'll see if I can remember everything I do. Box sizing, border, box. Just because that makes our life so much easier for sizing stuff. Body, we want a margin of 0. And we'll do my... Actually, bodies, that's fine. Here I'm going to do root. I want to create... we're going to be using a lot of custom properties in this. So actually, let me just put those there for a second. My 2 custom properties that I'm going to have for my font. So I always prepend with FF for font family, just because in the long term it makes my life easier. I'm just going to call it body. It's not the best name in the world, but body, just because they're both... Sometimes I'll do like serif and sans serif, but in this case they're both serif fonts. So we'll do FF heading, and we'll put in the other one. We'll turn on word wrap here just so we can see exactly what's happening. I just saw a comment about whether this would be a video or not later. I think as soon as it's done, YouTube automatically puts the live streams up. So if you can't watch the whole thing, you can definitely come back and catch the rest of it later. So font family here can be my var font family body. I want to also put my line height up. So just to show you, actually, where's my site? This one. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So font family, I want my line height to be like a 1.6, 1.5, 1.6 is usually where I start. It just spaces things out, makes it a lot easier to read. Font size too, font size 1.125 rem, which should bring it up to about 18. And even I think I might go a little bit bigger. Something like that I think will be better for what I want. It's lots of text on this page. We don't want a tiny font size. Why make people struggle? It also depends on the font completely. And here I think we have font weight. I'm going to call it normal, which is actually going to be 300. And font weight, actually, does PT Sans? We're only bringing in 400 and 700. Never mind. I'm so used to using a light. Font weight bold will be 700. It's a little silly because the font weights are 400 and 700 anyway, but if ever we change the font and we wanted the normal to actually be 300, it's just the way I sort of fly a little bit. So it could be like if I have this in 100 different places, I change it once, it's going to change everywhere. And it's not any more work, so I like doing it like that. And we'll come in with our colors. Color primary. We'll do, whoops, I need a double hyphen for a CSS variable. If you don't know CSS variables, they're just a way to store things that you plan on reusing. So we'll look at a quick example of that in a second. Font pair, no, I was on this one. Do I steal this color? No, I want something a little bit different. I'm gonna just go with this one for now, but we might modify that a little bit. So that'll be my primary. I'm going to do a color light, which is actually for now just going to be FFF, but we can always change that. And a color dark, which will be my 000, but again, we could change that a little bit later. You can also do like, I've seen some systems where you have like color primary, and then you have like a scale. So if I wanted, maybe we could do that. It's not something I do very often. But we could have this as primary 400. So it's sort of like with font weights, right? You have 400s, your default, your normal. So then we could have a color primary 300, which would be this one. Just because they're all blues, like I don't find it makes sense. Color primary, we'll just do 500, whatever. It doesn't make sense to have like primary, secondary, tertiary, and all of those when they're all blues. My number system here is going to be pushed to the limits. This is also where I'm not using Sass, I'm just doing CSS, but Sass could make this a little faster, but that's okay. We're just doing regular CSS today. One of these days I'll probably do a live stream with a Sass project instead. I haven't done Sass on my channel in so long now that I do think it would be worth jumping into. Color primary 100. You're going to say it might be really long to write these out, but any decent code editor these days, the nice thing with it is, let's go back to here. The nice thing with these is now if I wanted to set a color, which I'm not going to use any of them, this one I can delete. If I came on here and I said color is var color, and you can just see it gives me my list. So it's not like I can just choose from my list, or even I could just do color 100, and it's smart enough to know which one I actually want. It knows I want my primary 100, so you don't actually have to type the whole thing out every time. So if I did that, everything gets changed. If I switch that to 400, it's referencing back to here. So that's what this is all about. So actually what I'm going to do next is let's do my H1, H2, H3. Font family can be var font family heading. Cool. I'm sort of shooting in the dark here for the design. We're going to be designing this live. I might do some keyframe animations on this one. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do. I can't say your name. Really sorry about that. I'm just reading some comments. So let's just look really quick. Like Tailwind. Oh, I guess like variables are kind of like Tailwind. Yeah, you're getting a whole bunch of stuff ready. Tailwind's just a whole bunch of classes really that pre-exist. Like they've already created a whole bunch of stuff. So here I'm just setting everything up the way I'd want it to be. But then you get to use it how you want. So I see someone saying blue 1, blue 2, blue 3. That makes sense. The only problem is if I decide to change away from blues, then I'm sort of stuck with the colors that I have. Like the name. So then, you know, if you had blues, but then you decide to change the green, your name's a little awkward. So things like this can work. Someone's asking about what root is. Root is, it's effectively just targeting the HTML element. It's the root of the document, which on any website is your HTML. SVGs, it's a little bit different, but it's targeting your HTML element. It's just the specificity, I think I said it right, is a little bit different on it. It's a little bit higher. It's just become standard practice to include the custom properties on the root. It's where people expect to see it. And apparently Chrome has optimized custom properties for these. If it sees a custom property in the root and that never gets changed, they've done some sort of optimization that just helps things go a bit faster. I don't know exactly how it works, but we're also going to see, I'm going to do, these are root, like custom properties are stored in the root. And the reason we want them in the root is because let's just say I put a custom property in my H1. So you can define a custom property anywhere, right? I can say, I don't know, my custom prop, and we'll just say it's red. And then here my color can be var my custom prop, and they're all going to change to red. The only problem is now if I went on a paragraph and I said color is var my custom property, it's not going to work because it's not, this is scoped to my h1, my h2, and my h3. So it can't escape out of that. It's stuck in that scope. Whereas if I do it in the root, it's a global scope and it can be reached by anything I want. So that's the advantage of doing it on the root. You could technically put them on the body. It would have the exact same effect. But it's just become common practice to put these on the root itself and to have it on the root. And again, Chrome at least, maybe the other ones too, have optimized things a little bit. I saw something about Sass. Paradigm Shift 2 asked, is Sass your standard day-to-day workflow? How often do you make websites with just plain old CSS? Sass, for projects I'm working on, I use Sass definitely 100%. I love it, even with custom properties, which I use in my Sass projects now. Like the reason I got into Sass was because of variables, and then obviously it exploded from there. I learned all the other things you could do, and it's exciting and it's fun. And even on small projects, I think Sass is worth it. But the larger the scale, the more powerful it becomes. But these days, I'm writing a lot just of regular CSS. One of the reasons I changed from Sass to SCSS, which is just a syntax difference for those who don't know, SCSS is Sass, but just it looks like regular CSS. And it's because whenever I would switch between the two for my demos, I teach in the classroom too. So I'd be doing demos in the classroom with just CSS. I kept forgetting semicolons. So one of the reasons I switched was that. And also because I was doing videos on YouTube is I wanted people who weren't familiar with Sass not to be so intimidated. But lately I haven't done a lot just because I've been really focused on certain other things. But any big projects I do, even here on YouTube, I'm going to fall back into Sass just because it does make our life a lot easier. Code Stacker, yeah, I said it right. I've been focusing a lot on that, but it's sort of ruining my my brand if I can say specificity correctly. There we go, 2 in a row. I'm pushing my luck a little bit now. My VS Code, Manish is asking my VS Code theme. It's Atom Dark 1. I used to use Atom. I came over, so I just used it's one of the options in VS Code. But you'll notice my brackets are different colors, and in my HTML too, I think, or maybe not in the HTML. But in CSS, it's different, and this is especially for Sass. Like if I did things like that, and it's also in JavaScript, each bracket's a different color. So I'm using color. Where's my extensions? Bracket pair colorizer, and there's a bracket pair colorizer 2 now that's out, so it just styles your brackets. So in Sass, where you get a lot of nested stuff, or SCSS I should say, it makes it a lot easier, and if you're writing a lot of JavaScript, it can make your life a lot easier too. Is there an app to have a CSS cheat sheet? I don't think so. Sorry, Eric. There might be one actually, I just don't know of one. Sass Mixin's rule guy. Yes, they certainly do. Prettier, I have Prettier. It's on now, but Prettier is just for formatting, and it's more yeah, it's for formatting. It also, you can have it set up for different projects to make sure like a whole team is getting things to be good. So say somebody likes writing JavaScript with no semicolons, but the project should have it. When they hit save, it will go like inject them all and stuff like that. Oh, setting up a font scale. For example, with viewport width. I'm going to be doing, actually, we can set a little bit of that up now. Who suggested that? With Sass, you can do a little bit more with the font scale. With custom properties, is there a good way to do it? There was, let me just find that comment again. A suggestion, this is from Hans. A suggestion, how about attempting a scaling font setup with this one? For example, using viewport width in your basic font size. There's one problem. If ever you're using, that SVG is really big. If ever you're using viewport width for your font size, there is a big issue with it. So let's just do it on my, this is probably an H2. Let me just see, H2 color blue. Okay, yeah. So here, if I say font size is 10 viewport width, which is cool because it's going to grow and shrink with my viewport. I'm in Firefox. I forget the shortcut for the responsive mode though. It's going to grow and shrink that font automatically. The only issue is if somebody's on a page and they've zoomed in for their text, notice how the fonts are actually all zooming in except that H2. It's not changing on font size as I zoom in and out. So one of the issues with setting font sizes with viewport widths is, especially if it's like your body or something, the font size can get really small. Like if you did this on your body, let's get rid of this red color too, it's really bothering me. On body, if I did my font size as say 5 viewport width, and that's even really big here, 3. Now I'm going to show a solution to this in a second though. Let's say that's right. It looks a little bit big to me right now. Is it M? Ah, it is. Shift Control M opens up responsive mode. It's only in Firefox because I think in Chrome you need to have your dev tools. But the problem is if you went on mobile, now you end up with this where I can't read it. Like I don't even want to know what that's computing to. And if I try and zoom in on that, or it's not going to show me exactly now. But if you try and zoom in on it, it's not going to work. It's not actually going to get bigger because it's really based on the viewport. Now, what I've been playing around with a lot lately is instead of this, is using Clamp. Clamp's amazing. I have a whole video where I look at it. But basically, you can set a minimum, a ideal, and a maximum size. So say I want my minimum to be 18 pixels, so that'd be 1.125 rem. Then I want it to grow at 10 viewport, 10's kind of big, 5 viewport width, and I want a maximum size. I'm going to make it big just for example's sake. So now, what that's going to do, responsive mode, it's going to stop growing at one point. There, it's not actually growing the font size. It's going to start shrinking my font size. I'm going to just turn off that SVG for a second. SVG, display none. Just so when I'm scaling up and down, it's not moving so much. I'm going to go to the top here. So as I go bigger, the fonts are getting bigger and bigger, but at one point the fonts will stop growing. That's probably too big. Whatever, let's just leave it. And as I go smaller, at one point they'll actually stop shrinking. So like this is a minimum size, maximum size, maybe 2 will be better. So we can see it stop growing. There, you can see it stop growing now. And it creates this middle ground where it does grow. And the advantage with that is, if I get out of responsive mode, it actually will scale the fonts up if they zoom in, or scale them down if they zoom out. Just because it's sort of using a combination of both as far as I can tell. I don't think this keeps the same problems that viewport width units have, but also maybe I'm not an accessibility expert, so it might be worth checking out. And I'm pretty sure Clamp has really good support now. It's in Safari. Yeah, so as long as you're not too worried about Internet Explorer, you're probably going to be doing okay. Here it says, I mean, there's a few here that's saying it's not working at. But if you could easily just do something like font, or even like what I have here. You set the font size twice. This would be the one that's going to get used in browsers that don't support it, and then it'd get used, browsers that do support it would use this one. And you can get like your more ideal font sizes and stuff like that if you wanted to do it. So that is definitely an option these days, I think, that we could use. Animations. I have a video already on Clamp. If you look it up, I don't know what it was called exactly, but I have a video that covers Clamp, and also there's a min and a max too, that I look at both of those. So I'm going to leave this, but I don't want my body size to get that big. Maybe we'll just do like a 1.25. It'd be a small difference, but whatever. I'll put that just so we have it in there. Yeah, I'm getting distracted. A lot of people are asking for animations. Just so you know, I can put in some simple stuff. I'm really not an animation guy. I did an interview with the CSS Masters group. You can find that on YouTube. I linked it in my community posts thing. And they asked me about that too. And one reason I don't cover animations a lot, simple stuff, super good with, but when it comes to like these cool, complicated, really awesome animations that you see on stuff like CodePen, yeah, they're better than me. I'm just going to do some global styling for a minute, and then we'll come back and seeing some other things in here. But color here, we can give these a color of our color 400, I guess. That's 3. I just want to see what that looks like. It's a little, maybe we'll do the 5. Actually, I want to try something too here. I'm gonna do the 400. I'm a little bit worried about the contrast, to be honest, but what we'll do is also font weight can be var font weight bold. What I was thinking, it's something I'd have to look it up actually. I wanted to do a video on this, but it's not something I've actually used. So MDN, anytime I'm researching anything, this is how I find it. Text decoration. Because text decorations have come a long way. And this is one of those things that won't work on everything. Not color, there it is. So we can change the color of our text decorations, which is cool. So you can keep a text decoration. So text decoration of decoration color. Let's just see if it's working. I think it would work in Firefox. Let's go check. Yeah, isn't that cool? And I think you can do like a lot of stuff on here. Is it line for the thickness? Oh, it is just thickness. What's line do then? Oh yeah, okay, you can do different types of lines. And you can add multiple, like you can have 2 lines and stuff now. It's kind of cool. Text decoration thickness. Is it just a number? Yep. So then we can do a text decoration. This is one of those things where, as I say a lot of the time, when you're watching my videos, I've prepped stuff ahead of time. I know what I'm going to be covering. So it looks like I know everything about CSS. It's not always about knowing everything. It's about knowing that these are possible and then being able to find this, like how it works. This is obviously a really simple one. I don't really have to read the spec. But, you know, it's a, there we go, maybe a 0.15, and you can get a thicker underline, which is kind of cool. I don't think I'm going to do the red, but maybe my color here could be the, like a different primary 200 or something, just so it, oops, not font. What am I doing, Kevin? Var 200, it's not gonna work, color 2. There we go, it looks kind of, and I think, can't you control the distance too, or am I crazy on that one? Skip ink, maybe you can, I thought you could actually move the positioning of it, but I could be wrong. Thickness, style, line, color. Maybe I was sure I'd read something that you could move it, but maybe I'm wrong. So that's okay. I'm just going to make this a little smaller then, because I find it's a little too thick. So something like that. I mean, it's not like a big thing, but it's kind of cool that you can have a different, you can actually control the thickness and you can control the color. And if it doesn't work, someone's on Internet Explorer, okay, it's not the end of the world. That just means that these two don't work and it looks like that. So it's not like it breaks the site, they don't have a bad experience or anything. So you don't even have to worry about those browsers if it's something that isn't working in them. Underline offset. Oh, thank you. Who was that? Ragnar. Is it just underline offset? Text underline offset, 0.5em. That's gonna be a lot if it works. Oh, nice. Okay, so I'll bring this thickness back up. Thank you for that. Text underline offset. And that looks a little bit better. And actually, it's kind of cool because I think, let's just bring that down. See how here it's skipping the Y? The reason we do that's readability. I know it looks kind of weird when you get these skips like that, but it helps with readability. But if it's big enough, it realizes it's big enough, like it's far enough away and it doesn't have to do it. Now I'm gonna stick like that. I want it kind of close. I don't want it to like be protruding into those other ones. And actually, I could be wrong on this, but let's try. A hover, a focus. Always do a focus state, and don't just get rid of a focus state. You can't really see it as much in Firefox as you can in Chrome with that glowing outline. But if you are getting rid of the outline, you know, add something else to it. I think some of these you can animate, I think. So let's just start with text decoration color. I just want to see, like, I know this is going to work, but can you transition all to 50? Yeah, it actually does. You can, and actually, just for fun, I'm not saying I would actually do any of this, but we're here to have fun with CSS. Ah, it works. I wish I could make it grow up instead of down, but then I wonder if I take the offset. I have a plan. Let's see if this works. The offset, I'm assuming I can do a negative value. This is where there's a line height property that we don't have yet, or a line height unit that's coming, but I might be able to use something like the X height. No, the X height's not going to work. Whatever, let's just try -1m. I just want to see. Oh, but I'm going to have to turn the skip off if I do this. Text, underline, what was the skip one? Skip, none. That's not working. My idea is not going to work. I was going to have it like grow up, but even it might even end up covering. Text decoration skip. I'm sure Firefox supports that though, because it was working. 1 second. If anyone knows what I'm doing wrong here, text decoration. I want my hover. Text decoration skip doesn't work. Text deco. I might visit decoration skip Firefox. Most other browsers are supporting it. Text. Oh, skip ink. Maybe I need that one. Skip ink. Oh, there we go. That's working, and it is going behind. Okay, so this is not necessarily a good idea, but I wanted to have fun with CSS. So this is having a bit of fun with CSS. So the color here, I'm going to do var color. Let's go with my dark one. My color itself, color will switch to FFF. And the thickness 1m, 1.2m. So, you know, we could do a little, it's kind of awkward, eh? When it goes off. There's like a little weird glitchy thing going on there. I think it's because of the skip ink actually. Because I don't think the skip ink can, yeah, there, it's the skip ink that's causing the problem, which is a bit of a shame because I'd rather keep the skip ink on. But to actually get that to work, I need a little bit more thickness. This is something you could probably do with a pseudo element as well. And actually, performance-wise, a pseudo element might be better here because you could just do a transition and then do like a scale and just scale it up and down. And that would probably be better for performance reasons. And also, there's no like padding on the left and the right. Ideally, this background would actually be a little bit bigger on the left and the right, but with an underline, we can't do that. So I mean, yeah, that would probably be a better solution in all reality, but it's still kind of cool that we can do that. Another thing is, anytime I have to do a transition all, it's not usually a good idea. You don't want to do transition all. You really want to be specific on the properties that you're doing. I'm going to leave it just because I want to keep moving forward. But really, I should only be doing, well, see, that's the other problem here is I'm doing the color, the thickness, and the offset. So I'd want to make a transition for each one. And again, for performance reasons, probably, should I do it? I'll wait a second and see if people want me to do it also with the pseudo element, let me know. You don't have to use, someone asked, Oink Oink asked, why do we have to use var? The reason that we use var, yeah, please don't spam. If you have a question, I might miss it, but I don't know what you mean by are you taking classes. I'm gonna have to, 1 second. If you keep spamming the channel, I will have to stop you from spamming the channel. So please stop. I don't know what you mean by are you taking classes. So I can't give these a border or a radius either because they're just an underline. And actually, here, I'll show you what I mean. Do the pseudo element. Pseudo element would be great. Okay, we'll do it with the pseudo element. So I'm gonna, we'll just take that off. Actually, whatever. Let's just do a, we can turn this like that. Text decoration we can turn off. And actually that means here, I'm just going to comment these off, but I'll leave them there. That was fun. And there's definitely use cases for those. And we're just going to put the text decoration to none. Text decoration none. So if we want to do it with a pseudo element, the first thing I would do is my a, we'll do it with an after, I guess, a after. Whenever you have a pseudo element, you need to have a content. I have a mini series on pseudo elements because there's so much you can do with them. But by default, somebody asked me why we need the content. And it's because by default, content is off. So that means the pseudo element doesn't exist on the page. So it's a little annoying that you always have to do it. This is where Sass mixins are great because you can make a Sass mixin that gives you the first like 3 properties you always use automatically. But you need to have the content because if not, it's not on the page. And it's because if they were on by default, everything would have a before and after by default, which it would just clutter up everything. There'd be, you know, it wouldn't be doing anything, but you'd come and look in here and there'd be a before and after on every single element. And that would be really frustrating. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a display of inline. Do I need? No, I'm just going to use position. So position, if you give a position of absolute, am I going to use position? I don't even know if I need position. Let's do display block first. Oh wait, that might break things. Yeah, that does break things. We'll use position instead. Position absolute. The reason it was breaking things, I probably shouldn't be trying to put a position, a display block inside an inline element, first of all. But because it was a block element that was being rendered inside my links, it was creating a new line of content. So we'll use position absolute. Because I'm using position absolute, I will put a position relative on the links themselves. Kazi is just asking if I'm going to be doing more live sessions in the future. I'm looking at doing one a month now, roughly, as long as I have ideas for these things. I'll definitely be doing them. I don't think I'm going to make it through styling this whole page, so maybe we could take this back up in a couple of weeks and keep going with it, because you know, we're getting sidetracked, but we're doing fun stuff. This is the things I love doing, and the main purpose was to come in here and have fun with CSS. After content, position absolute is good. Another thing I might try and get to in this is the holy albatross, which is something I'm planning a video on for. But maybe we could do something fun with it. I'm not sure if it would really work in this layout, but if you don't know what it is, holy albatross CSS, look it up. It's really cool. We can do a lot less media queries with it. It's by Hayden Pickering. But I do have a video planned for 2 or 3 weeks from now that will be on that. Okay. Wow, it's weird having a chat room. I get really distracted and off topic on stuff. So content, position, absolute, left. Well, we'll do a left 0, right 0 for now, which means it'll be the same size as the link. I'm going to give it a height of, I'll just do 1 pixel, or 2 so we can see it a bit better. And we'll give it a background color of, we'll use the same one I used before. Var color, the dark one. And if I hit save, they should show up. There they go. They're all there, except they're on top. So bottom 0. There we go. And oh wait, I did the 200 last time, I think, right? There we go. Now one thing with this is you wouldn't be able to do the skip link. So if it is going through your letters, I don't think there's a way of fixing that with pseudo elements. But the idea here is I've generated those, they're coming in. And then on here, what I could do, actually the color here, we can put it back to white. And turn that back on. And then we'd also want to come in here. I'm just going to copy this. And whoops, we might as well do it on both of these at the same time. The after. So on hover, the after is going to change. I see incorrect. This is pretty much CSS Zen Garden. Just so if you missed the beginning, it's called StyleStage. It's a new version of CSS Zen Garden, pretty much. So we will get to styling it up in a little bit, but we'll come back to here for now. So we have that. Then what do I want to do? Transform scale Y. That's up and down, right? I always mix that up. And let's just do 200%. I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's try that. No, that's not the right thing. Is it? No, not. Oh, it is. That is getting bigger, but I need a lot bigger. Wow, I didn't think of that one. Maybe there's a better way of doing this. You can see it is working though. You can see it's getting bigger. I'm also going to give these a Z index, actually. Z index of -1, because the problem is right now it's in front of my text, whereas now it will be behind my text. But two other things I'm going to do is transition. So now with the transition, I can just transition my transform, which is going to have a lot better performance. 250 milliseconds, ease in, out for now. And I also want to do a transform origin, which I can just write bottom, and it should, now it's going to grow from the bottom. It's a weird little hop that it takes though, eh? And it's way too slow. What's with the little hop that it's taking? The bottom is 0. The bottom should still be 0. It's only transforming from the bottom. I'll think about that while I fix this. So here the left and the right, I'm actually going to give this a left of -0.1 m, I think. And actually we can do the same thing for the right. Just so now we can, it gives it a little bit of padding on the left and the right, which is nice, which is more of what I wanted. What's that little pop going on? I also don't like having to do just like a giant number here. It is one where I could do, instead of top, what if I don't have a top property, but I don't want one. The idea is I could actually like play with the numbers here. I could have a top that's setting it right at the bottom and then just grow the top. But again, transforms have better performance, which is why I went this way. Can I do a scale but without percentages? I saw Riza's asking about career and business. You can always come into the community. There should be a link below this. So there's, it's just a Discord channel. It's free to join. Anybody can jump in there. You can ask questions for dev help, dev tips, but also there is even, I don't have it open right now, but there is, well, whatever. No. There is a channel in there that's about business and stuff like that. It's a little quiet, but you can definitely ask questions. There's freelancers and other people in there as well. I just want to see, let's keep going with this a little container. I'm just going to set a max width of 60 rem. That's a little small. Whatever, it's fine for now. Whatever. Margin 0 auto. We will do rem. It's a little easier for me. And let's just see what's in a container and what's not in a container. And this is where actually, because it is text-based, I did a video on this recently, so we could do 60ch. And it's really gonna be based on the characters themselves. And actually, personally, I like things like this, where it's not too wide. And remember, ch is based on how many characters are in a line. So the nice thing with that too is if I come back to my font size where I have my clamp here, let's just say I did make this be able to get to a bigger font size. It's going to change the width of my, what's a max width, but it will, like the max width of it is actually changing based on the size of the font, which is kind of cool. Except my font's never shrinking down. There, now it's shrinking. It's not really, what if I'm trying to think if there's a way I could really get that to kick in, but whatever. Let's just say, I'm going to take max width off for a second and just set width, just so we can really see this kick in, what I mean by it. So here it's there, but as I shrink this down, like I'm getting side scrolling now, but you can see my lines, like here it's ending at the word that. No matter what I do, because it's looking at the ch is like character width pretty much. It looks at the 0 character, and that messed these up because I used percentages. So I will have to change my approach on that a little bit. But there's definitely, maybe I'll use top. I don't know, we'll see. But we can play around with that a little bit. Or maybe I just won't make the color white. I sort of like that it's not going the whole way up, to be honest. And it stopped jumping, which is good. But now like I've locked in that line length, which is kind of cool. But even actually, whatever. Let's make this a max width again. And that's really too big of a font size for me. So something like that could be nice too. And again, it's based on the length of the line itself, which is kind of cool. And then we have a min width and stuff set on it. But like that, I think works pretty well. And something really heavy text space, having lots of white space is a really good thing to have. So that can be kind of good. I think what I'm going to do is change this a little bit. Let's just scale it up by like 500. And my color here will maybe not even change. Can I still read that? Something like that can be kind of cool. I might just stick with that, to be honest with you. It's not terrible. I'll stick with that for now. If anybody wants to give any other suggestions, we can definitely look at them. I think we're going to start looking at styling this up. I'm just going to check on the chat again. Oh, see, that's when I was using my scale here as a percentage. That's scale 1 would be the same. That's why I was like, do I need a percentage that would be twice as big, right? Yeah, that's why I was like, I feel weird using a percentage here. So you could definitely just do that, and it's like, that's 500. So if I did 10, that would be 1,000. I knew I was doing something wrong there. Thank you, chap. So that could be a little easier too. It's still not perfect. The reason I'm not doing the height as a transition, and again, we're always developing on like high-end computers, and honestly, I think even like a low-end phone wouldn't have any issues rendering that transition. But in general, you really want to try and style things that are, as much as possible, you want to transition or animate things that the GPU can kick in on, and it's really limited. It's opacity, and it's like transform and scale and rotate. I think that's about it. Maybe there's one other one in there. But anything else, it's the browser has to repaint things while it's doing it. And because it's causing a repaint when it's doing it, that can cause just, it's a lot harder and it's a lot more work for the browser to do it. It's a lot more intensive. So on lower end devices, you can run into issues with like crappy animations. You're not hitting 60 frames per second anymore. It starts shuddering. Usually for small little things like this, if you're doing like a height transition, no one's ever going to notice it. So honestly, I'm being a little bit nitpicky for that for sure. But it's one of those things that, you know, it can help. You know, we do want to worry about performance and worry about performance of for low-end devices as much as we want to worry about it for the devices we're developing on. So just to keep that in mind. Hans is recommending keeping the font size here relative 100%. I always create at least a basic font scale just by sticking with rem for my font size. So here my font size would be like, let's just say 6 rem, which is going to be pretty big. I'm probably going to put a clamp on that too. Let's just do a text transform uppercase. I've skipped some stuff that I'm usually doing. I wish that was more bold, to be honest with you, but that's okay. Maybe we'll go a lot bigger. Well, we'll have some fun maybe with that too. But the nice thing is, because it's based on rem, and because my body's font size is changing, we should see when, well, let's just play with this clamp a little bit again, because it's so small, my clamp. Maybe we'll drop that down to a 1, and again, we'll bring this up to a 2, just for example right now. So as the body size starts to shrink, oh, whoops, I would have to do that on the HTML element then. There we go. So now it's going to shrink there and then grow as well, because it's based on, and I can get rid, again, if you're worried about browser support, just declaring 2 font sizes and you solved your issue. For big font sizes, one thing that's really important, line height, let's bring it way down, point. It's a little bit too big now too. Let's go with a 6 for now. Let's just take a look. So that looks okay. And then it should shrink a little bit there. So you do have a little bit of a scaling action going. But again, here I would probably not go up to 2. 1.5 I think is even kind of, 1.5 is okay. Something like that could be good on large screen. Whoops. On the large screen sizes, it will grow up to that, and then it will shrink a little bit at the smaller ones. It's not perfect, and you could even build another clamp into this. So here you could do clamp, and it's going to sort of have a compounding effect, so just be aware of that. But maybe I do 4rem 15 viewport width because I want to have a bigger influence, and 7. And that doesn't seem to be working. Font size clamp. Oh, I forgot a comma. So it should grow and then shrink, and it has a bit more of a compounding effect. You can see that this seems to be growing a little bit faster because the rems and the oh, it's also, sorry, this is a bigger number than my other one, so it's going to grow a little bit faster. I don't like that it's falling onto 2 lines, and I don't remember, there is a trick to pull things out of, let's just see if I can do this. Width 100 viewport width. I'm trying to do this based on memory. So if I do that, it's going to cause, let's put a background on this so we can see what's happening. Background is white, pink, so it's not too bad. So the 100 viewport width means it's going to side scroll. But then usually I've done this for images. I've never done it for a title before. But then we could do transform, translate X negative 50%, and I'm forgetting there's a padding margin 50%. Not quite. Oh, it's because of the scroll bar. It would have worked if not, I think. So margin 0, 50%. So you can see it's broken outside of the container. So if I put container border red, why not? Oh, border red 3 pixels solid. That would work. So you can see it is actually inside that container, but it's breaking out of the container because I said the width has to be 100 viewport width. So if I didn't have that on there, it's just going to be smushed there because it has the giant margin on it. So we use the width 100% to make it the full viewport width. Then you bring in your margin. The margin is sort of setting it directly to the middle of the page. And then you're doing the transform translate X to start it at the edge of the page over here. It's a little bit hacky, it's a little bit weird, but it can be really, really useful if you're stuck with something in a container like we are here, that we don't want it to be in the container. So I think here I might actually just do 1M on the top and bottom of it, so we have space there. And just do a text align center. And again, the reason I was doing that is just at big screens that was with my font size, like say I even made this a bit bigger. We don't want it, like here it can break outside of my container. The only problem is we get this little guy here because we're using viewport width, and viewport width counts the space underneath your scroll bar. So there are a few different solutions to that. I've seen some that try and sort of play with it. I'm going to do the easy one, which is just overflow X hidden, which is the easy solution and stops that from happening. Is it ideal? No, but whatever. So we don't want that border, and I don't want a pink background on there. And it doesn't really do anything big, but again, whoops, if I bring this up onto my big screen size now, it does let it slip out the sides. So maybe even I could make that like 520. Let's just see if that looks like. So something like that, it's going to be okay at small screen sizes, and then it just lets it be a little bit bigger. And even my container width, I don't want to shrink it too small, but I could make this like 55 maybe, just to highlight that even more. It's an interesting way that you can do something like that. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the comments. I can't see the name because it's moving too fast, but margin and then use calc negative 50 viewport width plus 50%. That would work too. Where did I do that? So here, let me just remember, negative, could I do that without setting the width, or do I still need that? I'm just trying to remember. Let's turn this off. And then here the margin would be, what did you suggest? Calc negative 50 viewport width plus 50%. I think it's the exact same result at the end. Yeah, looks exactly the same. So both of those would work. I think this one, if it's someone who just stumbles across the code, can figure it, even it's kind of weird. So either way, it is a little weird. If you had this in like a site that's not a personal project, I would definitely leave a comment in the code to let people know what it's doing. I think that would be kind of important. Let's come into here and keep styling this a little bit. So container style stage. I'm going to add colors and stuff later. A modern, that's an H2. And then we have my paragraph maintained by, and I turned off my GitHub thing, but we're going to bring that back on. We're going to style this a little differently. And actually one thing, does that have a class on it? It does. I came across this from Andy Bell recently, which I really liked. All of this styling we could do. Oh man, I'm going to forget how it works. Not. Is it not? I'm going to have to remember how it works. Because I don't want these. This has a class on it. So I don't want this one to be styled the same. And these two, well, these ones will have to figure something else out. Oh man, how does it work? I never used it. I just saw it and I said, that's clever. That's one of those things where always make sure that when you see something clever, you're watching a tutorial, you actually do it, because when you see it, you're like, oh, that's cool, I'm going to use that. And then you never use it. And then it's like 3 months later and you're trying to remember and you have no idea how it worked. Yeah, I really don't remember. Oh well, we might come back to that after. Not too many new comments. Someone asked if I work on one monitor for recording. I only have one monitor right now. I have my laptop on the side too. But I don't have one of those sexy dev setups that you see all the time. I have a really, really basic setup. This is going to get moved, and it's outside the container. So that's, well, why don't we just to do that really fast. Nav background can be var color. I want the darkest one. So that should show us where that is. And then I want my, I was about to do this, UL, because I'm used to Sass. I don't have any classes to go off of in here. We go down a little bit. They have the nav, then the UL, the LI, and all of that. So we're going to have to do this. The nav UL will be display flex. I'm going to do a really simple one here. Display flex, list style none. Padding 0, margin 0, just to get rid of all that. And then my nav itself, we can add a bit of padding. Padding 3M or something. That's way too much. That's 1M, wow, okay. I'm used to having smaller font sizes. What's wrong? Oh, whoops. That makes more sense. Okay, good. And then here I'm just going to do a, actually, this should be all the way at the bottom, just because I like keeping related things together. Display flex, and then justify content space around evenly. There we go. I think that'd be good. Then we want my nav A. Color can be just white for now. I did a variable for that, var color light. Again, this is if ever I want to change my white. I only have to change it once, and it's going to change everywhere I used it. Is that going to have that weird underline effect? That seems to have disappeared, which is good. I didn't want it. It might still be there actually. I think what might be happening is it's because of the Z index, it's behind everything else. So I do want to give these a hover though. Nav a hover, nav a focus. What should we do? Opacity, just something simple for now. So we can see, oh, and now, oh my goodness, that's cool. So see how now we're getting the underline, or when I didn't have the opacity on that, we didn't have the underline. Does anyone know why that's happening? I know why it's happening, and it's one of those super strange things with CSS. So I'm not going to give the answer away right away, but we'll see if anybody can get it in the chat. I'm going to put this eventually up on GitHub, yeah. Actually, after this is done, maybe I'll put it up on GitHub. And then even, I think what we'll do is in 2 weeks, maybe we'll come back and keep working on it, because I'm definitely not going to finish. And then I'll just keep updating the GitHub repo with the updates that I make, because I would eventually like to submit this to their site. But I'm not are actually already, to be honest, we haven't written much CSS, and it does look not terrible for something with lots of text, but we want to make this look cool, not just not terrible. Not so, yeah, I want the not selector. Who said that? A not dot class name styles everything, because it's not even, maybe it's even this. Can I do a not? That's not gonna work. It was something where anything that ended up with an attribute, like if the or that's not gonna work anyway. It would get anything that didn't have a class on it, any link that doesn't have a class. So I'm trying to remember how we did that. I think what I'm going to do is focus on this top area for now. Yeah, stacking context. Who said that? Ragnar. So Ragnar said this underline showing up here is because of stacking context, and it's exactly that. And what's happening is stacking context is, you know, when you're using Z-index and you're controlling how deep things are, that's your stacking context. You have a 1 and then a 10. The 10 is above the 1. But then you can also, things get broken off into their own contexts. So when you do, as soon as something has position relative and a Z-index on it, that's sort of on its own now, and it's independent. Like you can't break out of that little bubble is sort of a simple explanation of it. But one thing that's really weird with stacking context is an opacity other than 1. So if I had 1 on this, it looks exactly the same. But as soon as the opacity is anything other than 1, the stacking context is changed. So this is its own stacking context now, meaning the -1 Z-index, and actually maybe I could just leave it like that, but the -1 Z-index that I used on that underline on my pseudo element, it's getting pulled up into that link, whereas before it was independent. It was doing -1, so it was going all the way down and below everything, including the background on my nav. By the A having a new stacking context, it's pulling that -1 into its own little bubble. Kind of weird, but actually I might use this in my upcoming course, because I was looking for good examples of stacking context, and it's not often you run into issues with them, but it's one of those things that when it does happen, it's infuriating. So it's always good to know that stacking context can do stuff like that. Yeah, so Ragnar's, you know your stacking context. Position, opacity, transforms, and yeah, there's a couple of other things too. Ricardo's asking if I always recommend the mobile first approach. I always do it unless it's something that is only intended for desktop. So I did a video a while back now talking about how I think mobile first is the right approach. And a lot of people got a little bit upset in the comments saying, well, what if you're only doing something that's intended for desktop? And it's like, well, okay, if that's the case, then obviously don't waste your time. Just make it look how it's supposed to. So if you're doing like pretty much a web app that's going to be used at like industry level or for like very specific projects that's only ever, let's say a dashboard, that's only ever going to be used on a desktop computer, obviously you don't want to waste your time worrying about different screen sizes so much. But for anything else, I always recommend it just because I find it so easy. Because, you know, if I take off my width here on my container and I have no width set on anything, let's ignore my thing, you know, this is now a responsive website. It doesn't look good at big screen sizes because my text is going all the way across, but it's responsive. I don't have to worry about it breaking. Well, my nav bar looks a little weird now too. But you know, like it's functional. It's going to do its job. And then I can use things like a max width, and right away it's still working at small screen sizes, and it's also working at big screen sizes. It's magical. There are some things, and I've used media queries that are for the other way around, but in general, I find it much easier to work that way. I find you end up writing a lot less code. That said, if I'm designing something, I'm opening up Figma or XD or in Photoshop, whatever it is in the old days, I would always start, and I still always start desktop first, and I go the other way because I find it easier to think design-wise and then strip away stuff. Like, let's do complicated and then strip away for simplicity. But for coding purposes, I find it much easier to start mobile first and work my way up and add complexity because I find I write less code that way, and I run into less friction in my experience in doing it. It takes a little bit of a mindset shift if it's something you're not used to, but definitely something I try and do. Yeah, I wish, who said that? Oh, Ragnar again. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to has. We do have another one though that is around. Where is around, isn't it? MBN CSS is matches any, isn't it? Is the new one? The is, yeah. I think is can be used. Is can I use? Can we use is? Would I do it like this? Okay, not really. I thought it had better support than that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's coming along, but there's a bit of a mix up. I think if I were to use is, I would want to do it with auto prefixer on, which I'm not running right now. Because 95 support if you have if you're using the deprecated ones, but if you're using only Firefox, and even then it's still not there. But so I'm not going to use that in today's project. But I have a video planned on like is what's the other one? Is it matches? Maybe no, matches I don't think is implemented anywhere, is it? I don't remember. Sorry, I don't remember. But anyway, they're going to be very handy once they're a little bit more in use. Let's just give this nav a bit of margin as well. 1M top and bottom, 0 left and right. Something like that could be okay. And why not border 0.1M solid var color 100. Border, I only want top and bottom, right? And this should be bigger. So here border top, and then switch that over to a bottom. That's too big now. I'm just playing with some spacing and having some fun with it. Something like that could be okay. I want to bring in these different blue colors. Someone suggested I look up not. I think not is super widely supported. You can use not, like, I'm pretty sure, yeah, not you're safe to use. You can go back as far as IE9, so you're good if you want to use the not selector. So I mean not, because I don't have a class, but like say I could use the not for one thing here. Whoops. So just like here on my, when I did my links here, I could have done after a, I'm just trying to think, yeah, let's say I did it on this, I could say not, and then in here I could put the class of, what was the GitHub link? Link GitHub, good name. So I could say link not GitHub, so this is my GitHub link, and that should mean that this pseudo element doesn't live on that anymore. So pretty simple. So yeah, something like that is what the not selector could be used for. There is another one I can do that would, anyway, we'll stick with that. We'll leave that in there. That could be good. And by making this not work, I don't have to add it to these ones. This, just because without the content existing on this one now, this does nothing and it's not affecting anything. So it's not like it's going to try and animate that. We're going to turn that into a little bit more of something eventually. I want to see, I think that's my header actually. So if I came just on my, I'm going to come up, my nav is in my header. So let's just keep this a little bit organized. Header, text align center. Yeah, I wanted to do that. That's my H2. I'm going to do, just because I think these are all H2s, and I don't necessarily, I only want to target this one only right now. And because we have an H1 followed by an H2 here, and that's obviously the only H1 on my page, I'm just going to do H1 plus H2. And I could also do like first of type probably, but this would work. So font size will be, oh, we're doing clamps everywhere. Why don't we come in with the same clamp? But here I'm going to make this say 2 to 4. I don't want it to be as big. Oh, that's really big. 3. That's still pretty big. 2.5. Okay, that's a bit better. Line height will be 1. I also don't like, you know, I'm doing selections here. So let's just come up over here. Body, even. Selection. Color will stay white. So that's my var color light. And my background will be var color, what's my darkest one? 500? So it looks like that. I think that looked pretty good. There is, I think you can play with opacity and stuff too on those. It's very limited what you can't style anything on the selection colors and stuff. The one thing I have read is it's a really good idea for accessibility reasons on a light theme, and I guess it would be the opposite on a dark theme, I don't know. But people read a lot by selecting. So as you're reading along, you're selecting. And if you have a light color on a really dark background, it can make it a lot easier for people to read. So for that, you might not want to come in and do like a 200 or, you know, something like this. That's going to be really hard to read. It looks a little bit nicer. I actually prefer that, I think, as it just looks nice. But to make it more readable, you generally want to have a dark color. Maybe I could get away with a 400 or something, just so it's not the same as my dark that I'm using everywhere. I don't know if that, I guess that looks like it would hit accessibility standards, but just to make sure that the text is readable when it is selected. Manish, outline instead of borders. I don't mind here. Normally I'd sort of agree with you. I think that outline is super nice. The only problem with outline, I guess I could overflow it off the sides of my page. But outline, you can't do it top and bottom. You can only do outline on all 4 sides. Can I teach React? Definitely not. Who asked me that? VJ? No, I'm not going to be teaching React. I know the basics of it. I've played with it. I've done some projects with it, but JavaScript's already daunting enough for me to teach. I can make something work in JavaScript, but I stick to CSS because it's what I'm really good at. I try to teach things that I know really well. Maybe one day, if ever I have to dive more into it, I will. But for now, it's not in the plans anytime soon. Line height. Let's just do color at the top. Someone asked me about prettier earlier. You'll notice I haven't set up VS Code very well because when if I come and I hit tab, it's doing 4 spaces. But I have prettier set up, so when I save, so color var, let's just go with color. I'm gonna try the 400. When I save, like here, if I have this really indented, when I save, it fixes my indenting for me. Also, I have it set up so here, if I do single quotation marks, when I hit save, they automatically get changed to double quotation marks. I actually prefer single. I just never bothered changing that setting because it doesn't change anything in my life. Again, this is more for, the indentation fixing is just better for me. But for things like ensuring double quotation or single, it's just nice for on a project that everybody's code looks the same. So making this either 2 or 4 is a good thing to have. I just need to fix my VS Code so my tab does 2 spaces instead of 4. And I recently got a new computer like 3 months ago, and I just never fixed that and changed it because Prettier does it for me. Any Delarosti? Hopefully I got your name right. Recommendations to strip out redundant CSS or CSS that's not called upon. The name of it's escaping me now. If it comes back to me, I'll mention it. Joshua, what is your opinion on flexboxes? I like flexbox a lot. Yeah. I don't. Yeah, Kenold brought up a really good point here that this should be a paragraph and not be a H2. 100% right. And actually, there is a bug request in in their GitHub page for stylestage that mentions this, and they're trying to figure out a solution because people have already started publishing it with this. But the rules for submitting are you can't actually change any of the code. or any of the HTML. So I'm not going to change it, but you're 100% right. This should be a paragraph. It shouldn't be an H2. Subheadings, like if you have a title and like an H1 is your title and then you want a subtitle for that, and it could be the same here. You have an H2 and then it has like a little subtitle after it. It should be a paragraph, or maybe depending, it could even be like a span that's inside of there. Style stage, a modern, if that's one big sentence. But by this being an H2, it's actually creating a new section sort of in the document outline. So style stage is the name of the entire page. And then we're getting into this H2, which is actually creating like, picture in like if you're reading a chapter book that had like an index. So pull out an old classic where I'm assuming this has an index. Oh no, it doesn't have subsections. Never mind. Does this have subsections in it? It must, come on. Okay, yeah, so here, where hopefully you guys can see it. I know it's small and I haven't set this up for big screens, but I have like a section and then all these subsections. And then even in here, I have another subsection. So this would be like my H2, then these are all H3s, these are H4s almost. So it's sectioning off. So by the H1 and then having an H2, it's like creating a new chapter almost, which this shouldn't be a chapter. This should be just regular text. And then you style it to look like a subheading or whatever you want to call it. So technically this shouldn't be an H2, but I'm not going to change it just for that. But thank you for bringing that up. It's a good point that I do think should be explained. On CSS or purge CSS to strip out the unused CSS. The purge on CSS is the one I know of, but it sounds like there's two solutions. Make the nav stick to the top. We can definitely do that and make this 100% excluding that. We can definitely do that. And maybe, no, it's 11:20. I'm going to go until another 40 minutes or so. And we want to get rid of that. And I always forget this because there's too much. SR only Scott O'Hara, I think it is. I always just steal his because if you don't know Scott, he is an accessibility expert. So if you see stuff on it from him, it's usually good. I think, is that the one I usually use? I haven't been on this in a while. I just have a snippet usually that's already, like, it's based in my template. And if anybody knows more about accessibility, it's something I do want to learn more about. I try my best to know the basics of it, but I'm definitely not like this master. It's something that I wish I knew more of, to be honest. Especially since I do a lot of HTML and CSS. The HTML side, it is quite important. Class is skip link. So the idea with this is we want to skip link. Skip link means like if I click that, it brings the person down to the main. It's skipping past the navigation. So if you're using a screen reader, you don't want to always, on the page you want to be at, you just want to skip to the content. If you follow a link somewhere, you don't need to read everything. You want to skip all of this. You want to go right to that. So usually a skip link right at the start is a good idea, but a lot of the time you don't want people to actually see that. So that's where something like this, except I'm not sure about the active and focus. I might take that off. But here if we did skip link, save. So it's just visually hidden. The only thing is if I hit tab, can I get to there? Yeah, if I tab to it. So if I'm here and I hit tab, I'm going through, you can see, I have to make a better focus here too. You can see that I'm going through these different things. If I shift tab, I can go backwards. And if I shift tab onto it, I can actually bring it into view because of the not focus and the not active. I don't think it hurts to have it there, so I'll leave it. But if anybody has any strong opinions on that, leave them in the comments, and hopefully I see it as we're going. I'm going to see if I can remember how to do 100% viewport height without using viewport height. But I don't remember, because I do know that I do it a lot in my videos, or not a lot, but often enough. Where's my header? Height, I'm just gonna do 100 viewport height. People, on iOS, this can cause issue. So there is a solution that I don't remember at all right now. That involves, there's a weird name for it. It's like, anyway, there is a way you can get a 100% viewport height without 100% viewport height. So if I did something like that, but I want to center this on the page, what I would do is display flex. That's going to make columns. So if I hit save, it's not going to make columns? Why not? Oh, because I have a container. Cool. That makes my life easier. And then I just have to do a align items center. Boom. That's right in the middle. Then we could have that scroll down, and then we would get to our navigation, and then the navigation we could definitely have stick. We just have to do a position sticky top 0. So now, and I just saw that looks like position sticky makes a new stacking context, everybody. So going back onto that, you can see the underlines have all shown up now. So we'll have to come up with a solution to that, but that's okay. And then it will stick into place and be there. This is, oh my goodness. Stacking context is punching us in the face right now. Z index 100. There we go. So we can do something like that. And I might even do, instead of a top 0, let's see. We're going to come in here and say border is 0.3 em. And then here and here, I can use my var border. So this is a local custom property. I'm only defining it here because I would only use this here. Nothing has changed yet, but what I could do on my top is I could actually do negative. Can I do negative, or do I have to do a calc on that? Top 1em. I just want to see, is that going to move it down or up? That moves it down. So I need negative. Can I do negative var border? I think I might need to do a calc on that, eh? Yeah, okay. So if I did calc var border times -1, that way I want to hide that top border. So here I don't mind it, but then like it's just gonna hide that 3em at the top there, and then the page will keep going. And the advantage here is if I change it here, so let's just say I made it 1em, they're all gonna update together. So that my border top, my border bottom, and this calc that I've done here all get switched at the same time. So just makes my life a little bit easier. That stacking context little change, I really don't want those to be underlined, so I will have to. But didn't I do that? No, I didn't. I only did it. So I did that. Can I do? I'm just gonna do a comma and say, whatever. Not nav a. I don't have a hover on them anymore, but whatever. I'll come back in and add something there, so that we get something like that. I don't really, I'm not sure if I like it, but whatever. I'm gonna leave it like that for now. We might come back and change it a little bit. I could do a position fixed creates a new stacking context too. I think so, yeah. Appesh just asked, he said backwards compatible. I don't know if you're talking about the position sticky, but again, it's one of those things that if someone was on, say, Internet Explorer, the navigation's just going to be where the navigation should be. So it won't, it just means that once they get to here, it doesn't stick. Not the end of the world. Oh, and while we're here, actually, we have my HTML at the top. Scroll behavior smooth. I think that should, if I made my own CSS reset, that would be included in it. So that just means we can scroll. Whoops. Oh no. There we go. But if I click, we just do smooth scrolling everywhere, which is cool. No JavaScript required. Bilal asked why I used Flexbox instead of grid to center. Definitely, I use grid and then it's place items center. In this case, I didn't need it, and part of it's just habit. As cool as that is, and I love it. And I guess you could argue, but if I'm going to be using grid for something, I want to use it for really layout purposes, just because there's always a chance of some sort of browser support issue with grid, no matter what we wish. It's obviously, actually, we've been using, I should just leave this open. I keep closing the tab. We must be close. Oh my goodness. I mean, here there are some issues, but wow. What's Flexbox? Like on here, Flexbox. Yeah, 99. Okay, close enough though. I didn't realize grid was so high. I use it all the time, but yeah, I mean, you could use grid to center. Definitely, and you save yourself a line of code along the way. Scroll smooth is working. Maybe you don't, is it my, this is working for me. On Chrome? I'm sure it's working on Chrome. Can I open a Chrome window off screen? Whatever, that's okay. I'm sure that's working in Chrome. Yeah, it works in Chrome. So if you run into any issues with it, just you might have to double check it and open it up again. My battery on my laptop, I didn't plug it in. I don't know if it's gonna make it to the end of the live stream. So I might have to pull the chat up off screen. We'll turn the brightness on the screen down a little there. If anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. MS asked, making Bootstrap cards responsive. They should be responsive by default, I'm guessing, if it's Bootstrap. I haven't used Bootstrap since my last video that I did on Bootstrap, which was probably 2017, maybe 2018. It was right after 4 alpha came out, and we're just hitting the 5 alpha now. That would be the last time I used... oh no, did I break my... I broke my links. This didn't work. Can you not do that? Okay, whatever. We'll just... I thought you could do that, but I guess not. I know some... Safari, actually, I think is the only one that supports, like, you can do some crazy selectors inside of the knot, or is in the, like, the other things like that. Like, you can just do anything you want, whereas a lot of the other browsers, they only support really simple ones. I mean, one solution here, nav a after, I could just do the background is, no, I don't want to change the background because then it's always going to be gone. Oh, I'm going to leave it like that for now, just because I want to keep going. We'll come back to these guys after. I sort of want to give a gradient to the background up here. And for gradients, just because it might be something I would use again, I do like putting them, whoops, oh, that's my colors. So I do like color gradient, just because they're always a bit of a pain to make. So should we do a linear? We'll do a linear gradient. If ever you need a really fast gradient, UI gradients, is it .com? It is. You just push the arrow and it goes through and finds you different gradients, and that can be a nice, if you want a cool gradient, you know, these days they're everything, you see them everywhere, so you're like, oh, that's awesome. Then you can also use one of those as your primary color afterward. I'm just going to do one that uses my probably 200 to my 400, or maybe even 300. So let's actually put this on multiple lines so we can see what it's doing. So it'd be var color 200 to my var color 400. We'll start there. And here, I'll just do it here for now. Header, background, image, var, yeah, var gradient. What am I doing wrong? Linear gradient. Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. Color 400. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, there we go. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And here I'm just going to add in to, or maybe 45 degree. Negative 45 degrees. Negative 125. I want the light one up here. I'm terrible with gradients, or the degrees. What about variable fonts? Who asked that? Thanglam. I do plan on doing some stuff with variable fonts in the near future. There's something I'm so excited about. I'm huge on typography, and it's just not something I've gotten into as much as I've wanted to. So I want to make sure I really understand them. I know Google supports variable fonts, but it's a little bit, it's cool actually how it works. It's nice, but it's not as robust as most variable fonts would be. That looks okay to me. Oh, but now my nav. This is what happens when you don't have things planned out at all. Nav margin will be 0, 0. I really don't like that border. I don't like what that, whatever, it's fine. I'm gonna, I might change that. And now my header also. Color light. Not primary. And my H2, I think we do color var color. I'm hoping this is dark enough. That looks pretty good to me. On my H1, I'm actually going to add in H1 after and do that as a content we always need. Position absolute, which means that over here I want to position relative. Height will be 1 pixel. Maybe we'll go with 2 pixels. Color will be var, or current color. Is that going to work? I think so. Height width will be 50% just for now. Let's see what this looks like. Content, position, height, width. Oh, I don't want color. I want background color. Background. There it is. You can see it over here now. I got that little line. So we want it to be left of 0, bottom of 0, margin. Can I do 0 auto? No, that's not going to work. If I did display block, it would work instead of this. We'll do that instead, and that simplifies our life. 50%, we'll drop that down to like a 40%. Maybe make the height a bit bigger. Margin will be 1em. Rem. The M was using the font size from here, so it's a little bit too big. And I'm just going to bring the opacity down to like a 0.2. Something like that could look pretty nice. Just to add a little style to it. Text shadow. Yeah, we could add a little text shadow. This is also somewhere text shadow could be a good custom property because it would make it easy to use in more places. RGBA 000 var color. I don't want the black. I want to see if it's going to look okay. Is it not working with that? Let's just do black then. Oh, what am I doing, Kevin? 0.2. That's stupid of me. Do I have an... It's there. In general, I was trying to do... Anyway, you know what I was trying to do. Don't... Even if you can't really see it, don't go with like a 0.5 and make it really obvious. Because that makes... It's a little too much in these cases. Whereas if you're going with like a 0.2, a 0.1 even, it's not as noticeable. And you have to watch the background colors and stuff too. Like here, it's going to be harder to see than on this side. But in general, like turn it off and see, and then turn it back on and see, and you should notice it. The shadow should be really, really, really subtle, ideally. And like even here, maybe I could put like a small offset downward. It's such a big font size. But that's huge even. This is where pixels, a lot of the time for shadows, I'll use instead of M's, but the advantage now is because the font can scale up and down in size, the shadow will scale with it, which is why I like using M's for stuff like that. Is inset possible on text shadow? No? I guess not. I know text shadows don't take a spread. Is it spread or is it just inset? MDN text shadow. I haven't done a text shadow in a long time. But I don't think you can do... No, it doesn't look like you can. You could maybe do it the same... I don't know if you could even do it, but the same way you might do... No, that wouldn't work. I was just trying to think with like, if you wanted to ever put an image inside your text type of thing, but it's a little different, obviously, with text shadows. Linear gradient to make it transparent on the edges. Bilal, what do you mean on the text itself or somewhere else? Parmir asked if when this hits the top and becomes stuck, if we can change the CSS. That would be really cool if we had like nav stuck or something. As far as I know, there's no way of doing that. That is some JavaScript that would have to come in to be able to do that. Yeah, I don't think there's a way of doing it. Ravi's asking if I'm going to have a collab video with Kyle. We don't have anything planned right now, but I do talk with him all the time, so it's something that could definitely be possible in the future. If you don't know WebDev Simplified, go check out his channel. He has a lot more JavaScript content. His is mostly JavaScript, React, some CSS, HTML, and stuff in there too. But if you're after more JavaScript and React stuff, definitely check out WebDev Simplified. Contrast color to use for the H2 hands. Thank you for the suggestion. We could try that out. Let's go take a look where I was choosing my colors. Did I close it? So what I'm going to do is grab, this is, I guess, is more of my primary color. I'm going to go with this one anyway, though. My background is more closer to that one, though. So this is where things like this can be useful, because you generate, you have your color that's picked, and then you get like these gradient things, different ones, but then you get these twisted palettes and things where it gives you more like the contrast. You can also use Adobe, is it color.adobe? I haven't been on here in a long time. I don't want to tour. Can I just pick a color here? Awesome. And then I want complementary. So it's going to go to the opposite end. So in this case, the opposite end is an ugly brown, which I don't really want to use because I don't think that would look great. Let's just go find my H2. Color. Let's see what that looks like, but I've lost track of. Yeah, we need something a lot brighter than that. This is where, oh, we could just come into here. I always forget VS Code has this, the color picker, and I can never get it to show up when I want it to. People have asked me about it because I've used it in my videos. A yellow might, the yellowy orange, you know, it's gonna pop. I find it's a little bit hard to read. Personally, I definitely think a contrast color could go well on this site. I'll have to think about that a little bit. This is my header. I am going to do header A. Color is var color for now, and this could even be somewhere too, where the contrast color could be good. The white's really popping off, so we're sort of losing this a little bit with this being white and those being white. One thing you can do always, opacity 0.7. Oops, you gotta spell it right. Just so it's not as like faded, you know, it doesn't pop off as much, but you're not actually adding a new color in. But it's getting a little bit hard on for accessibility reasons now. I don't know, but something like that could be decent. That's selected. Okay, I thought I had a weird pseudo element there. Yeah, more orange. Some sort of orangey color could look good. We could, here, one sec. This is where, if I'm going to add in some colors, we could have a color accent. Where was that site? I have too many tabs opened. That could be interesting too, but again, one thing when you're putting colors on top of other colors, it's not always about the contrast in the color, but also looking, or something like that could be interesting actually. Is that the same one I was on? Anyway, something like this could be good, but the problem is their values are really similar to each other. You need something like, it's not just about like if the saturation is really equal between the two of them, even though they're completely different colors, it doesn't always make it work the way you'd think it would work. So that's my H2. I have so much going on here. So if I just did this as accent, what would that look like? See, their values are so similar. So they're completely different colors, but like looking at that actually hurts my eyes when I try and read it. So it is one thing you really got to watch out with. That's why either a really dark one here would work well, or a much lighter color. And it could be variations of this accent. So if I go in the hex, there we go. So like here, if this was a lot lighter, it would work, but it's not really popping as much. Or that's, you know, we had those browns suggested before. Something like that's definitely going to work. We can still read it. We're still keeping with the darks. And maybe we could create like a whole, I have all my primaries here. I could have a range of accent colors too. And I could bring those back in other spots as well, maybe with, say, my titles not being blue, so not everything is blue. It could be an option if we want to develop this color palette a little bit more. Can I apply a gradient to the header text? I'm not going to keep it, but you can apply gradients to text, but it's a little bit weird. Let's see if I can remember how to do it. I have a video where I look at how to do it with, I think, gradients and with images. I said I was going to do some keyframes too, and we are running low on time. But we want to do a background image, because gradients can only be done with background images, and you can just write background for the shorthand. And let's put in linear gradient. I'll just do purple to blue to red, purple. Let's just start with red. Red, purple, blue. So that puts it behind. Then what we need to do is put in text. I'm going to forget. I don't remember what it is. Clip. Background clip. There it is. Background clip to none of those. Is it not background clip? I haven't done this in a long time. I thought it was like that. Let's just see if this works. I'm pretty sure it's background clip text, and then you need to make the color of your text transparent. It did work. There we go. So you can add things like that, and if this wasn't a gradient, you could also have an image come in that way too. So if you want, be really careful with these. Because it can, gradients less so, but definitely with images, if you have image in it, it needs to be a bold font, or it won't look super good. I don't think I'm going to keep that though, but definitely is very possible. Well, final day of conquering responsive layouts. That's awesome that you made it to the end. I'm glad that you learned a lot from it, so congrats on making it to the end. If anybody wants to know about that, actually just look up Conquering Responsive Layouts, or just go to my website, but Conquering Responsive Layouts, it should pop up. It's completely free, and it's a 21-day drip course, so every day there's a little bit of content. Some days it's little break days where I give you extra stuff, but you can definitely check that out, completely free. It's really about like the understanding and getting into the responsive mindset for layouts. And we build out a few projects along the way and stuff. So it's really focused on layouts. It goes, the first week is just thinking responsively. The second week is getting into Flexbox, and the third week is getting into media queries. So if you want to check that out, it is there. Yeah. Yeah, let's just check this actually. Somebody did inspect accessibility properties. This is in Firefox. Chrome, it's a bit more built in for the text colors. And then I forget, there's like a special, is it this guy? It is this guy. And you can see so it's giving me oh no. I'm not sure. Oh, that's cool. It's actually doing it based on my gradient. In Chrome, actually, let's just go check Chrome. You can get the same, so if I do my inspect, however you want to open it, and you go on elements, like if I look here, you see how it's giving me, it's not giving me the accessibility, it's not, or there, say I'm getting a contrast, I'm getting like the thumb, a check mark, because the contrast of that color on white is high enough, so there's no issue. It's not showing me on the black, because, just because it's black on white, I guess. I don't know why. But there it's giving it to me. If I know properly, here it's not giving me an accessibility answer because it's a background image. My gradient is an image. So because it's a background image, it's not able to distinguish if it's good enough or not, if it's high enough contrast to be considered readable. Whereas over here, Firefox, apparently, it's a little different icon that comes up, but it looks like they're actually giving me it on the gradient. It's saying on this side that it's a little worrisome, or no, probably on this side it's a little worrisome, but on that side we're A-okay. So it would be something to just be aware of. So, but it's large text. So yeah, on the light I'm getting a very good rating. On the dark side I'm not getting such a good rating. So it would have to be something I could think about. It could be maybe, if I'm really concerned about it, I could change my gradient here to only go up to 300, and then I could take a look at it. So it's a bit more of a subtle gradient. And I'm still getting the same warning. Let's just double check that. Am I getting the same warnings? Oh no, there we go. I refreshed the page and now it's giving me 3 AAA on both of them. So just if you are looking, I don't really like this color, especially now that I lighten my gradient a little bit. Actually, I'm wondering here. Wrong one. Accessibility properties. That one probably isn't high enough. Yeah, the white text on top of the light blue there. It's so big, I'm not going to stress about it right now, but it might be something that I look at changing. And I might actually make that my, like a certain color, and then make this stand out a bit less, because I find this is standing out more because it's the only thing that's a different color right now. Travis just asked, is it recorded and reviewing at a later date? Yes, it will be. And Anthony, yeah, it does depend on, you don't need to get AAA on everything. If you have AA, you're probably good, like you said. Just checking the comments. If anybody has any suggestions, just let me know. I'm going to be going, I was going to stop in 10 minutes, but maybe we'll do another half hour. I have really not made a lot of progress. It's not even terrible. This is what I love about CSS. You don't have to make a lot of progress and things can come together. I think what I'm going to do is tackle these guys. Because this, as much as it looks like a list, like even if we come, can I find the original one? Or I should do the button thing here too, maybe do something with that. Just definitely, like here, they sort of made it look more like not a list. And I think that's a cool idea, not to have it actually look like a list. It's a list of things. I don't want to steal their idea, to be honest, but even if I look at, where's the ones that have been done? Contribute, here, view all. Let's just go look at a few different ones. I love this because it shows you which ones you've looked at. So let's just go see what some of these look like. So there's some really cool ones here, but I think a lot of people styled, the order looks a bit, maybe I missed, where's that list? Oh, it's here, they left it as a list. That one was cool though. Oh, I like the titles. That's just a text shadow if you want to do something like that. I like the, ooh, that's grid. See, I sort of like this idea of making them like that. Lobster for the win here. Ooh, look at that color. Alright, so I might, if anybody has any ideas on how we could style this to make it look a little better, let me know in the comments. Jay, do I use any... Jay's just asking if I use any frameworks. I haven't even used Tailwind yet, to be honest, and I plan on jumping into it. I just haven't had time. Right now I don't use any, but it is something that I'd like to eventually get into, just try it out and see, but I'm so comfortable with CSS. It's something that I think if you're really comfortable with CSS itself, using the frameworks, it's not that bad because it's very easy to jump into a framework. Whereas if you understand a framework really well, but not CSS really well, you can use that framework really well, but then sometimes you run into issues with it even a little bit. So Michael's asking concepts or recommendations for what should be taught at school ages 13 to 16. I wish I was learning this when I was 13 to 16. That's probably when I started making my first websites, but that was back in the 90s. A lot of Photoshop slicing and dicing, and that was the good days of table-based layouts and all of that. I think just introduction to HTML is underlooked a lot of the time. Just semantic HTML, using like the nav, using a main, articles, sections, things like that. And then the basics of CSS, enough to style a page. I think at 13 to 16, and at school level, there's so many people at different levels of like interest even in it, that keeping it simple is really good. Because even when I teach it at school, I'm in like a adult level teaching it, but it's a design school where it's, they're learning graphic design and they're sort of stuck into these two classes on the web. So I try and push them as much as I can, but I do try and like, I have a certain point where I want them to reach, and I notice the ones who really get into it, they just deep dive themselves and they start pushing, and then they come to me with questions when the things they're finding aren't working, or if they run into issue, or like they get into Flexbox before I bring it up, and then there's some weird stuff with it. So I find like if you can get people to make something simple, understanding just styling text, getting something cool together, something they can put up, it's so fun once you get into the CSS, and once you get past that first couple of days, where even the people that aren't super into it, they're able to do enough that they don't feel demoralized. So I think just keeping the momentum going, and then pushing the ones who do seem to really dive into it. Mochina, do I need CSS while learning JavaScript with Zell? I mean, it's good to know CSS. I do think that he supplies everything, though. I don't think you're writing CSS, or if you are, it's very little. So you could definitely, I think it's always a good to know CSS if you're doing stuff with JavaScript, because they're so intertwined. You're adding classes, removing classes, adding sometimes just inline styles and stuff like that. So understanding is important. List style circle, just grid boxes for each. Kenneth is saying for these just to use grid boxes. I was thinking of something like that we could do. Well, that's not a bad idea for conquering responsive layouts. Maybe doing a live video, maybe even. Maybe I'd only invite people that have done the course. We could do something like that where I look at the solutions. A news ticker. Oh my goodness, that's an idea. Okay. A word cloud. Yeah, we could use like a font awesome glyph too. Make it 2-column. Okay, we're gonna do a few of these ideas. And we're gonna see if I can get to the news ticker in a way. Whenever I have an idea, or even if I'm looking at a layout, there's always like the first thought that goes in your mind about how you can actually accomplish that, and it's usually wrong. But the news ticker, I have an idea. People early on asked me for keyframe animations. I'm gonna see if we can do it with keyframe animations, but I'm a little bit worried. But before we get to that, I won't do the font awesome right now, just because, but definitely we could. Alvarez is asking if I can do a video with responsive tables. I hate tables. There's a really good CSS tricks article on them that I'd recommend if you need to do it. 2 columns. Okay, let's start with the 2 columns. Let's just see what this thing is actually called. If it has the block quotes up higher, container, so, oh man, is it my only? It's a UL in my about. So I think we're gonna have to do it like that, right? Is it the only UL in my about? Article ID. Oh, articles. The about is my article. That's an article. Section. Article about. So we'll do that. About UL. So for 2 columns, what you can do, the easiest thing is columns 2. We have 2 columns. So that's obviously the easiest thing in the world. People don't use CSS columns. You want 3, you do 3. You know, it's this is where the problems can happen with them. There is a way to fix that, but I don't use columns much either. But it's one of those things I always say it's good to be aware of solutions in CSS, and then you go over to the MDM and you read more about it and you find out how to prevent little things like that happening. Is it column break? Or there's gap 2, which can I just do gap now? Gap to say 1em. Let's just make it really big and see if it works. Yeah, so gap now, I know in Firefox is everywhere, and has gap come to Chrome? The gap seems to be working there, and I think gap also works with Flexbox now in Chrome. I'm pretty sure. Not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. Obviously I don't want that big of a gap, but is it column? Describe the page column break behavior before the generated box. What's this one? That's all WebKit. I don't, is it only WebKit? No, it didn't work. There is a way, I'm not going to dive into it now, but there is a way to prevent things from going like that. I just don't remember what it is. So that would be one way, you know, if you want 2 or 3 columns really easily, really quickly without having, again, I'm not changing the markup. I'm just selecting, where's my UL? It's down. I'm just selecting this UL and I don't have to do anything weird to get that to happen. So that's really handy that you can do something like that. If I do this as a display flex, now it's going off the page, but my page has the overflow list style none. It's a little weird, eh? Custom variables. Why is that happening? Because there's not enough room for it, I think. Oh man, there's an easy way to do this to get them all to fit. I'm just gonna do a flex wrap for 1 second so we can see everything. I'm trying to think for an easy way to do the news ticker actually. I'm just reading the comments, sorry guys. How long did it, I get this question a lot from Jay, how long did it take me to get comfortable writing CSS? And sorry, and what to do if you are doing CSS wrong, aren't able to figure out how to make layouts, can't figure out how to accomplish it? For me, it's a really hard question because, as I mentioned not long ago, I started writing or creating websites in the 90s, and it's been back and forth a lot. So I've started making them, then I'd stop, then I'd start, then I'd stop. I got into design, then anyway, it's been a long relationship with it, and it's been something I've been doing for so long now. It's really hard to say when I sort of got comfortable. It's just been such a long progression with it. Teaching was a big part in really understanding CSS. So even if it's not something, you're not going to start a YouTube channel or you're not going to start teaching in a classroom, you can just start writing blog posts about stuff you're learning. It can really, when you just have to even just write it to yourself, it doesn't even have to be a blog post, make a markdown file, make a Word document on your computer, it really doesn't matter. But just documenting what you're learning can make it can change how you understand something. When you have to explain what you know, it's so different and it really helps reinforce. And the other thing is lots of practice. Make sure you're not just watching videos, but you're following along. You might see me doing a layout and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like Kevin's got that and I understand what he's doing, so I must understand it. It's not the same. I have an article on Free Code Camp where I talk about how learning how to skateboard made me realize a mistake that a lot of people make when they're learning web development. And it's about how they, when I started trying, my kid wanted to learn how to skateboard, and so I said I'd learn with him. When I was a kid, I wanted to do it, and I never did, so why not? It's a good way to bond with him. It's been a lot of fun. We started wanting to learn how to do ollies. I watched videos on it. We talked to other people about it. I knew I could tell you step by step everything to do. I still couldn't do it. It's a little bit the same. Like I could watch 100 videos and understand what they're doing in every single one. I still couldn't do an ollie. An ollie is just when you jump on your skateboard and it goes with you. And it just took tons and tons and tons of practice. It's the same thing when you're writing code. Watching it and understanding it is not the same as being able to do it. And it's the same as riding a bike. It's the same with cooking. It's the same with anything. Any skill you're learning, you just have to do a lot of it to get more comfortable with it. And a lot of early on, especially, like even now, like I'm learning while I'm trying to figure out how to make this into a news ticker, because I'm trying to come up with a solution. The first thing's probably not going to work. I try 3-4 things, I eventually get there. But then I also, the things that aren't working are helping me learn as well, because it's making me understand things a little bit more. And the other thing is to read documentation. When you go to a page like this and it looks really boring, read it and try and understand it, and then try and use what you read to make sure that you understand it and stuff like that. That is a big part of it as well. It's not always the most exciting part, but it is part of it. Is CSS documentation is a little different than, say, like React, but if you are using React or Vue or anything like that, like read the documentation. That's how you're going to learn how it works, and practice what you're reading to make sure you understand it. Column fill balance. Ooh, let's try that really fast. Columns 2. It was 3 when it broke, eh? Who suggested that? Sorry, my screen brightness is really low because I don't want the battery to die on my laptop. I can't even see, I lost it. But whoever did suggest it, thank you. Column fill balance. I kept it. I think the balance is going to work if, like here, if I make that 4, not 34, 4 columns. See how this one's a lot shorter? I think that's going to make it, it's not doing what I thought. But I think if it wasn't list items, it might just balance them out a little bit more, I think is what that's going to do. There is a solution though. I can't keep up with the comments though, so. Text marquee, should I try marquee? I don't think marquee works anymore, does it? And we're not supposed to change anything in here, so I'm not going to keep it. Would it be here? I don't think browsers... Oh my goodness, it's a little busted. Oh, because my Flexbox isn't working. Don't use marquees. So here it would be my, that I could keep the same, and then my about marquee would be a display flex. Oh, that doesn't work? Why not? Ah, that sucks. I was just hoping to get them to line up next to each other. Or what if I just did UL? I could just put the marquee outside, no? There we go. About li margin left 100 pixels. 100. Let's do like 3M. No? Why doesn't that work? Just space them out a little bit. Gotta spell margin right. That's why. There we go. And then I could even, again, this isn't officially going to work, but because I'm going to eventually take the marquee out of here because we were not allowed to touch the HTML. But that's kind of fun. And then we could do the same trick that we did before to actually get it to be full width and play around with it a little bit. That's hilarious. I'm so glad that works, though. That's really funny. Okay, let's take these marquees off and see if we can repeat the same thing now without them. Yeah, welcome back to when I started coding. I'm really annoyed these are breaking into 2 lines. Flex... I don't have a marquee anymore. It's because they're not fitting on the page. And I'm so not used to running into this type of problem. We'll get there though. I don't want to set like a set width on these is the only problem. Actually, it would be here, flex grow 1, but it's still not. I don't want to set a width on it, even though I think that could solve the problem. Samindra, how do you get better? You just do lots of coding, follow tutorials, follow courses. Courses tend to reinforce things more because they follow along a bit more, but you don't have to do courses. You can learn for free, but it's just lots of practice. Practice makes perfect. There's also, if people are looking for something, front-end mentor, I recommend this all the time. They're working right now. They have premium and they have challenges. They're working on like a subscription model. It's not ready yet, but it's coming soon. But like they give you layouts to build. HTML, CSS only here. Then this one has JavaScript in it too. You can see it's free. They give you a brief. They give you the images. You just try and make it work. Challenges like that are great, and it's nice when you don't have to design something. So that's always available. I think what I'm going to do, yeah, Joe, the only reason I don't want to set a width for this section is because I don't know how big it needs to be. But what I'm going to try, I have a few ideas here, and this is going to be the last thing I do, because I will have to go eat lunch, and I have other work I need to do today, but this is fun, so I want to do this. I don't know if it's going to work perfectly, but we're going to get something going with some interesting things here. So how are we going to do this, though? Li. I want them moving across. Let's just make an animation first. So keyframes. We'll call it marquee. We're going to recreate a marquee. 0%. I think we're just going to do a transform transition. I always do that, transition. Transform translate x of 0. And then, because I'm only doing 2 keyframes in here, actually, I just want it always running though. Transform translate x 100%. This probably is not the final state of this. But if I came on here and added animation, marquee, 5 seconds. Forward? No, infinite. Did I do my keyframe wrong? Oh, it's going. Okay, except I want to do it the other way. I don't want it moving that way, and I want it to be linear. So this would be negative 100%. The only problem with doing this, you can see it's not going far enough, because 100%... Let's just slow that down too, because it's going to drive me nuts. There's 2 problems. One of them is the width of it, which this might be somewhere you need JavaScript to actually figure out how big it is, I'm thinking. Or I could set a width on it, but I was hoping I could cycle through and then have Flexbox come up on the other side. But now that I think about it, I don't think I could do that. But what I was thinking here is what we could do. And actually, I'm surprised it's going... Oh, because it's a transform. So what I want to do here, actually, let's just give this some padding of like 2M. And then I want to give it a box shadow, but I'm going to do an inset shadow. Inset 0, 0, 1M black just for now so we can see it. Oh, that's not going to work. Because it's moving along with it. And this is where the 100% isn't working, because you can see my... That's moving the whole UL. Can I get around that somehow? I can't. Darn it. What if I added these marquee? What happens if this is on my LI? I don't think that's going to work, is it? Because they're only moving... That sort of works. But they're moving like their own width, I think, right? So like this one's moving faster than that one. That's not what I wanted at all. My idea here, though, was then I could do an overflow of hidden. Oh, no, not on that one. On this, my UL could have an overflow of hidden. And you'd sort of see the ones you want scrolling through. I don't know. So like here, if I gave each one of these the same width of 300 pixels, whatever, they should all move at the same speed at least. Or not. Oh, flex shrink. flex shrink of 0. I don't want them to shrink. I want them all to be the same size. And now make that like... There we go. So they'll... so this is where 300 is way too big. Like, so, you know, you get the idea. Padding, I don't want any mark. Anyway, you get the idea of where I was going with this. I guess this could be like... But I don't think it's going to work the way I was hoping it would. It's kind of fun. LIs aren't inline. LIs are block. Display block. That's why, like a list by default, each one is on its own line. And once, and it also doesn't matter because this is display flex. So like the whole inline or block or whatever it is sort of goes out the window as soon as they become flex children anyway. So even if they were, it wouldn't change anything. So now the spacing's really far off too. I could play around with this and I think I could get it to work. Maybe. If anybody has any questions, go for it. You know, who was it? Jeremy? Jeremy, ideally that's what I would do. I would actually set all this up on like a parent around outside of the UL. But in this case, I'm not, part of the challenge here is I'm not allowed to touch the HTML itself, so I can't add a parent. If this was something I was doing on my own site, I don't know why I would do this, but I would make like a box that would be on the outside of my UL, and exactly, I would just take the whole UL and move it across and have the shadow on the one on the outside. That's where my idea was, but not having access to everything there sort of pushed that out the window. But whatever, it's still a fun little experiment. You know, let's just... It's going way too fast now. That would drive people crazy, but we could find a way to space those out a bit more evenly too. And everything, I think that could be something that would work. My shadow I don't like, and I think there's a way of doing the shadow so it's only on the two sides. I don't remember what the trick is for that though. Or maybe I'm thinking of outset shadow, like not an inset shadow for that one though. Yeah, it wouldn't be an inset. Because, why? Can I do it with an inset? Let's turn this off. Or let's just make it like 100 seconds so it's really slow. One way you could... Is this going to work? Where's my inset? It's going 1em. Can you put a spread on an inset shadow? 1em. Negative 1em. So then here I could do this as 1em. That's a little bit what I wanted to do. So there's only a shadow on this side. And then do the exact same. So actually, let's just put this on its own line. So you can have multiple shadows if you comma separate them, I think. And so we can do another inset shadow, negative 1em, 0, 1em blur, 1em, negative 1em. Why do I have a negative there? That's my, yes, M black. Would that work? There we go. And then maybe the negative could be 1.2. And is that going to work? I just don't want any shadow on the top or bottom at all. And it sort of looks like it's like peeling off on the sides. Anyway, a fun little thing. This is also where some custom properties. Whoops, 5. Something like that was sort of what my idea was, and it would look like it's like pulling off, and maybe that would have a background color too. Background of our, you know, even if we went with the light one. Not perfect, but you get the idea of, you know, the idea that it's dipping down into the sides. But I think I'm gonna get rid of that, that whole thing. It could be something that I work on more, and maybe we could get it to work. I might come back to it and try it again. For now, let's just see. Nice effect. Thank you. Thank you, Benjamin. No problem. Glad you like my content. White space, no wrap. Oh, let's just go back then. Would that work? Instead of having a width, let's just hit save. They're all there. One of the reasons I gave them a width though is because of this, where they're traveling at different speeds, because I had to put the animation on that instead of putting the animation on the list. But let's just try that. Save. Because that worked. But why wasn't it working originally? Oh, is it because of the flex shrink? Turning off flex shrink actually solved that problem. Because they weren't shrinking anymore, they were staying at their actual size. So that's good to know. We could use the flex shrink 0 to stop them from shrinking. So the flex shrink 0, we could space things out a little bit, and if you had control over something other than the UL, you could give it an actual parent. I think this could be a solution where they wouldn't travel at different speeds. But yeah, I'm going to get rid of those for now. And I think that white space no wrap thing would work as well. But I think what I'm going to do now is actually do a display of grid instead. Items, let's do list style of none. I like putting that at the top. List style of none. Margin 0, padding 0. And let's give this a grid template. Columns, how many columns? 3. So repeat 3, 1 FR. And then my LIs, let's just give these a bit of padding. 0.25M, border, yeah, we'll do 1 pixel, solid, and var color, that one. We can add a gap to these, gap of 1M, 0.25M maybe. 1M would be a lot. Oh, that sucks. Let's change the font size first of all, actually, on these. Font size 1 rem only. That would fix that. It does make it kind of small though, but that's for a quick solution, which might not hold up. Actually, one thing that could be good here, instead of doing that, could be repeat auto fit. Let's put this on another line so it doesn't get weird. Auto fit, min, max. There's auto fit and auto fill, and I always mix the two up. Minimum would be, I always just go with a really small number. You have to give it a set number, and then 1 FR. I think would work, wouldn't it? And then at small screens, yeah, then it breaks into 2, and then it goes back up to 3. So you don't need a media query or anything. We can just get that to work. And maybe this could be a little bit bigger. If you want to prevent this, this is where it's a little bit awkward if you are using grid. So actually, would it be better not to use grid in this case? Because even I couldn't suck these up. Sandit has a good question. I'm going to get to it in a second. With grid, like I could do align self start, but it's always going to leave these spaces underneath because the here, if we look at the grid, this is in Firefox. I know Chrome, I think, has added, I don't know if it's only in Canary or if they've added it to their the regular one now, but we can see the grid. But I still like Firefox. Like I can't make some grid cells smaller than other grid cells. Every cell's height is dictated by the ones in that row. I could make all of them equal, so I could set like a set size to all of them. But it's, you know, people want these like the Pinterest style layout. You can't do that with grid right now. There's talk of adding a masonry style layout. It might be something that's implemented as part of grid, or it might be its own thing, but we're not there yet. Right now, if you really want masonry style, the two options are columns or JavaScript. But I think, you know, we started with columns, we went away from columns, but here, honestly, columns, because there is a bit more you can do with columns. I could set, let's just say let's do like 12M and 3. Isn't it like that I do it? Okay, let's just do 3 to start with. Columns 3. I broke it. Oh, display grid. Turn that off. Columns 3. That's working. I have a gap there, so I would have to add a margin to these. So and again, this is where if you wanted to, you could do gap of, I did 0.25M. So I could then use var. This is where I love locally scoped properties, because I want to use it here, but I also want to use it on its child. So then here I could do margin bottom is my var gap. And so it sort of simulates that style. And then here, if I came and I changed my gap, it's going to change both of them at the same time. Let's just make it really big for now. Just so you can see it's updating the margin bottom and the gap in between them, which is because this gap is only doing between, and it's not like a grid that has different cells in it. So that could be an option here for that type of thing, and where CSS columns come in. And it's a locally scoped custom property because it's only going to work in this UL and in the children of that UL and nowhere else. So, which is different from my ones up here, which are globally scoped custom properties that I can use anywhere in my site. Frederick, can you give me an example of somewhere where I left a strange comment? I'm hoping nobody hacked my account, because I definitely haven't been leaving comments anywhere. I know there's some weird bug or something where that is a thing, and hopefully my account isn't one of the ones that's doing it. There was a question about the ULs in navigations. It's really common practice. There is talk about whether it should still be there or not from an accessibility standpoint. I'm going to keep doing it until someone really tells me I should stop. It's not that much harder to style. I do know that some screen readers, when you do list style none, they don't even treat it like a list anymore. So that's one of the reasons there's some talk about not bothering with it anymore. Part of it also is you want to look at a website, always for any site, think about what it's going to look like if the CSS doesn't load. So if the CSS didn't load, it would be kind of handy for the navigation to be, you know, it makes it a bit more obvious it's a navigation, I think. Always take into account what it looks like if you have no CSS as something that's important. Here I don't need my keyframes anymore. Let's put a border radius of, I don't know, 0.2em, something small. I want to shrink that gap back down. And the last thing here is, now does this work? 10em? I think so. Maybe 10's too big now, but I think like I'm telling it should be 3 columns, but I'm also saying that it should be 10em. So it's going to adjust, see there, like there's no media query here. Now 10 maybe I guess is too big. Let's just go with 5 and see what happens. So they're going to adjust 5's too small. You can use pixels, obviously. So there it's okay, and then it goes up to 3, and then it stays at 3. And I think if there was room, I don't know if I have room for 4. So you could, you know, you could have it, it's 2, then it's going to 3, then it's going to 4, as long as it can fit. So something like that can be kind of cool. A nice use of CSS columns, really, to be able to do stuff like that. So I think I'll leave that. It's a fun use of CSS columns. The advantage here, again, is this can be tall, and you know it goes across multiple of those, whereas in CSS Grid, you can't do that. So it's kind of neat. The point of nav. Nav is really important. It's telling it that this list, who asked that? Jarrett. Semantic HTML is really important. So the nav is saying like this is the main navigation or the primary navigation for my site. You can have multiple navs on a site, but it's saying like it's a primary navigation. You might have something that has a few links in it. It doesn't make it a nav, but you could have another nav in your footer, for example. But it's letting like screen readers and other things know that this is actually a navigation, and it's going to bring me to different places within that site. And then you have your list of links that are, you know, we have the, here's a navigation and here's a bunch of links, and it is a list. I'm giving you a list of different pages in my page that you can now visit, which is one of the reasons that we started using lists, is because really it's just a list of pages and we style it to look a little bit different. Sinhala, I'm not going to be doing any live coding tomorrow. I'm thinking about once a month. I might come back in a couple of weeks and do this every like week or every 2 weeks until this page is done. But it's not something I plan on doing too often, just because it's hard for me to find the time to do it all the time. And I think I'm going to have to cut it there. I said I wanted to finish this part. I just want to see, does this have... where's that list again? I sort of wanted to style this a little differently. But there's not really... I could select this paragraph, no problem. Because I can say the paragraph after my UL. I can't say the paragraph before my UL. So I guess not. Because this is just in a container. Oh, well, okay. We could. But that's... Which container is that? Container, about, and then another container. I didn't realize we had a double container. That's okay. If I go to about... Let me just see if I got this right. I have a section and a second section. And then it's my... So what I could do is about section nth of type 2 p nth of type 2. It did work. So you can, I mean, you can select anything with CSS you want as long as you're willing to dive in there deep enough. So even here I could just do like font weight. Font weight is font weight var. If I just did font weight, does it make it into a var? Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, that's gonna make my life easier. Color can be, so I don't have to write var, I just have to do color. How did I never know this until now? You learn something new every day. That's so cool. Thank you, VS Code. I don't know about other text editors, but that's cool. 400? Looks a lot like a link, but it's not underlined. I wanted this to be a little bit different, so we're sort of highlighting this whole area. I sort of want... I'm really debating at one point to make this... I want to give like a background to all of this. So like this, to show that like this is linked with this. It's sort of making like it a faux H3. So I have my title and some examples, and I have this little thing of examples. I really got to go, so I'm not going to do it this time. But what I would do is turn this whole area into a grid, and then that I could get a pseudo element to be a background on that section of my grid. That would be the idea there. But I'm going to leave it there. I really got to go. There's been like 300 people here throughout, so I just want to say so much, like thank you so much for sitting here and bearing with me. This was a lot different from my regular videos, obviously, where they're a lot more focused. I was all over the place in this one, so I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know, obviously, through comments and stuff like that, to let me know if you do like this style. I do plan on doing more live streams, but I could always have a lot more focused things, or I could do it more like this, where I'm sort of building on something, but stopping, asking questions, answering questions, and we're just sort of playing around. So really, this had zero planning other than I want to look at this one website and try and style it. So if you did like this, let me know, and we'll definitely keep going with them and having fun with it, because I wanted to play with this, and I said, why not do it as a live stream? And I enjoyed it. I had fun doing it. I hope you learned a few things or got a few ideas along the way as I did this. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. It was a blast. It's fun having some people to, you know, partake while I'm coding. It's definitely a different experience. The laptop survived long enough for me to be, you know, it didn't die, so that's a good thing too. It's in the battery's in the red before it was in the yellow, so we've just made it. So I'm going to end it now. Thank you guys so much. I'll be in the chat for maybe 2 minutes. I think the chat stays open even once I end the stream. So thank you guys so very much for being here. And of course, don't forget until next time to keep on making your corner of the internet just a little bit more awesome. And I don't know why I remembered to say that, but thanks a lot, guys.